Olá, eu sou Katiuscia Sotomayor e este é o AgroAmérica, programa em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura, o IICA, aqui no AgroMais, seu canal voltado para o agronegócio 24 horas. A proposta é mostrar iniciativas inovadoras e compartilhar boas práticas dos 34 Estados-membros, que podem ser replicadas em todo o mundo na busca pelo desenvolvimento agrícola e pelo bem-estar rural. Hoje o assunto é a importância da agricultura para a economia do Caribe. Vamos conhecer um pouco sobre São Vicente e Granadinas, uma democracia parlamentar e monarquia constitucional, cuja economia é baseada no turismo e na agricultura, com destaque para o cultivo da banana. Para falar sobre o arquipélago, vamos receber o Ministro da Agricultura, Floresta, Pesca, Transformação Rural, Indústria e Trabalho do país, Saboto Caeser. Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I'm definitely happy to be on the program.
Now, what's the current situation of food imports in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other Caribbean countries? Are you promoting local food and nutrition security to achieve a higher level of independence?
It is very important as a country that we continue to address the very important issue of food security and food sovereignty. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States, and also all members of CARICOM, we are working steadfastly to ensure that we reduce our food import bills in each respective member state of these different organizations. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are advancing significantly the production of local foods for increased consumption by our population. Therefore, we have advanced over the last decade a program intended at increasing local food consumption, and it has been dubbed a Buy Local campaign. Of course, it is a reality that because of our geography, that there are some commodities that we will always have to import. We import, for example, wheat for processing because we have a flour mill, and because we are a tourism destination primarily, we also import several food items which are not produced in our country. However, there is a very large basket of commodities which can be produced in CARICOM member states, which we import from the extra region. And currently we have a quest where we are working with local producers, with the farmers and different cooperatives to address this. We are financing from the central government several programs. We're working with technicians in the different ministries so that we can be able to not only identify these goods, but also identify producers to be able to get these goods to the market and to the consumers. It is critical throughout this whole process, though, that consumers are aware that they should be supporting local producers, because if local producers do excellent work in ensuring that commodities are available, but the housewives and the persons who go in the marketplace, the restaurants, the hotels, if they do not purchase the goods which are produced locally, then it will be an exercise in futility. So we continue to encourage our population to buy local, and because there's a single market and economy in the CARICOM member countries, we are also advancing the cause for intra-regional trade. This is where we're going to have cross-border movements of food so that we can be self-sufficient as a region.
And are there any other steps required to reduce imports and increase local production? Is there like a project on precision farming how do you intend to amplify the access to other markets?
We have been working with several marketing intelligence agencies locally and regionally because it is important that we have full alignment between our producers and our consumers. So we have a national project, currently it's called the Food Market Stabilization Program, where we have basically attached to this program the required technicians. We also have the Farmers Support Company, which will be capitalizing production, which has been doing this for the last 5 or 6 years, so that these producers can ensure that the value chain that they're targeting is a value chain that is in demand by the consumers.
What about this, the support that you were talking about? Small farmers have limited financial resources for investments and restricted access to credit. They require improved technologies and extension services that adapt to small farm size, for example. Is there another form of support to improve these agricultural sectors and programs that are geared towards developing the local livestock sector?
What is critical in any assessment of these issues is an assessment of the factors of production: land, labor, and capital. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in most member states in the CARICOM region, farmers have access to land. Of course, they do not have access to very large tracts of land. In terms of the labor, most of the farmers are family farmers, and they engage basically in the production, utilizing the labor from their family members, and they also do some employment from within the communities. The main issue that has to be addressed is one of capital. Capital on the normal market will be at an interest rate of between 10 and 11%. And what we have done here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is to create a framework whereby we can have the farmers access capital at concessionary rates at as low as 2%. It is an initiative like this which has helped our farmers to be able to access the capital needed to produce, to reduce the food import bill. We also have, for example, joint venture investments taking place whereby you have investors from foreign countries working along with local producers to address the issue of market access, not only locally, but also extra-regionally.
And your ministry works also with extension and advisory services, research and development, and rural transformation, right? Are there projects focused on women and young farmers, for example?
We have an excellent extension service system. Our technicians work very closely, for example, with international agencies like the FAO and also like IICA. Because we have an excellent network and a framework, we have been targeting persons who are vulnerable within the sector, mainly those persons who are micro farmers. And we have studied the system enough to realize that young persons who are in the industry, that they need extra assistance because we have to ensure that there's required technology and a framework that is welcoming to the youth. And I'm happy to report from St. Vincent and the Grenadines that in circumstances where we advance new technologies, we are seeing an excellent entry of young people. We also work very closely with the cooperatives, and with a lot of these cooperatives are being governed by women, and they bring significant assistance to the entire cadre of leadership to advance an increase in production and productivity.
And what about the sectors of fisheries and the forestry, nowadays with the climate change, for example?
The fisheries sector is very important in the Caribbean. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a very large seascape. We are an archipelago in the region, and we are an archipelagic state here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In fact, we are made up of 32 islands and keys. And we have a significant opportunity that we have started to tap into in order to create livelihoods for our fisherfolk. We are celebrating this year the 4th year of having an international airport. And what an international airport did for us after it has been constructed is to increase the air access for fish and fish products from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the rest of the world. It's very important as we advance the fisheries sector that we have the critical support infrastructure in place. And the completion of the Argyle International Airport was significant for us as a people. And we have seen an exponential increase in the trade between our country and the extra region as it pertains to the movement of fish and other fish products. What we have seen also is an increase in the attraction of foreign direct investment into the fisheries sector, and they're working very closely with local entrepreneurs, the fisher folk and the fish cooperatives to ensure that we increase the production in fisheries.
And the forestry is another important sector, right, in your country?
Forestry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a critical sector. It is a significant home for a lot of our wildlife in terms of being a habitat. As it pertains to the commercialization in terms of us harvesting trees, we are not at this moment advancing that particular line of production. What we are advancing is the establishment of a well-planned, structured, and conceived agri-forestry program, whereby we can have a lot of plants in the forest which are climate change resilient and can support livelihoods. So in terms of the harvesting of trees for timber, that is not one of the major advances that we have been addressing in the country. Instead, we are ensuring that the entire framework of agroforestry is one that is advanced.
Now, what about bananas? Since they are the main crop on the islands, right? You grow 12 varieties, right? The fusarium, yes, which has already arrived in Colombia, is worrying the government. How is the country preparing itself, and what kind of aid does it need to receive to fight the Tier 4 if it's necessary?
In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a history since the 1950s of growing bananas. In fact, banana became the mainstay of the economy to the point whereby in the year 1992, we received some $100 million from the banana industry. We have been affected over the years by significant pests and diseases, and climate change has created several devastating impacts to the banana industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But before I go to the diseases, I must express an appreciation and an understanding that the removal of the preferential treatment that the bananas from the Windward Islands received, that this created an indelible impact on the production and productivity of bananas. Therefore, in the year 2010, October the 30th, we suffered a major a hurricane in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it devastated 98% of the banana industry. While we recognize the critical importance of the banana industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it was very important that we continue to capitalize production. And then we were affected by the black leaf spot disease. We are aware that the tropical race 4 is within the hemisphere, and we continue to work with the government and people of Taiwan to bring the requisite technology to ensure that our banana cultivation are protected. And we intend to continue to work with friendly governments and international organizations so that our farmers can be prepared in the event that we become affected by the tropical race 4. In the Caribbean, in CARICOM, we have a very important organization by the name of CARDI, and they continue to provide technical support. And we will be more than willing to work with organizations like Embrapa so that we can have the required technology transfer, so we will be better placed to protect the banana cultivation that we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, should we be impacted by TR4.
Well, I really hope we can help. But now talking about another pandemic, what are the efforts done so far to protect local farmers from the effects of the COVID-19?
The COVID-19 pandemic has created significant disturbances in the markets in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and throughout the region for food. It has created significant dislocations as well. So for example, in my country, the hotels and the persons involved in hospitality, the restaurants, for example, because borders internationally have been closed and there's a significant reduction in tourists coming to the country, we have lost close to 90% of the demand that we had for locally produced food to be sold to these restaurants and hotels. Because of that, the government took a very important initiative to the Parliament and to the Cabinet of the country, whereby we established an internal program where we purchased the food which hitherto would have been sold to the hospitality industry, and we distributed the food to the food vulnerable and persons who were becoming susceptible because they would have lost employment and were basically they needed assistance from a social safety net system. So we distributed between the months of March to December some 40,000 boxes of food. And this has been seen as a best practice in the region and the hemisphere. And it was dubbed the Love Box Initiative, Caja de Amor. And we were able to assist the farmers with a ready market. And these farmers have been able to continue their production. And what we have done is that in 2021, even though we are not going to continue with the Love Box Initiative, Caja de Amor, the Love Box Initiative in 2021, what we're going to do is to have the framework for the Food Market Stabilization Program, which will ensure that the government has a subsidy whereby we put in place the technical support, we organize the market, we ensure that those persons who are trading goods from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that they receive the support from the government to move the goods. And we have several centers already available to collect these goods and to package these goods at a very high level of certification by the middle of the year. And this is going to ensure that our farmers have a ready market. We have to, as we say, roll with the punches. The vagaries of climate change were difficult to grapple with, but of course it is easy to rebuild after a hurricane. You have a history of addressing earthquakes, but we do not have the experience of dealing with pandemics. And so far, we have done an excellent job to ensure that the markets have been open and we continue to export.
So even without the Caja de Amor, we can say that islands are slowly reopening with a new proposition for visitors, right? Why agriculture is key to Caribbean's post-COVID tourism sector? Is it possible now to draw closer links with food and gastronomy, experiences beyond traditional sun, sea, and sand packages? Can we say that the future of the Caribbean vacation is the post-COVID era? It may lie on agritourism.
Yes, agritourism has a significant role to play in the advancement of the agriculture sector. And IICA has done an excellent work in advancing this platform, and the FAO also has done some work with us to pull together stakeholders so that we can ensure that persons who are operating in the tourism sector can see the possibilities and the opportunities. So there is the issue of the agritourism, whereby persons will visit farms and have that as a part of their package for their visit, and not just only visiting the beaches. And you also have the very important area of food production for the tourists, because it is definitely not sustainable to have the tourists come to your country and they import all the food that they're going to eat when they are in your destination. It's a critical opportunity for the farmers and the fishers to target the value chains, which are segmented to address the tourism and hospitality industry. So in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, definitely in the rebuilding program, we have placed significant attention at agrotourism, both from the standpoint whereby our farmers will be able to bring the tourists onto their farms to see how agriculture is being done, and also for the farmers and the entire agriculture and fisheries sector to be able to sustain the demands that are being made by the hotel industry on food systems.
And like us, you have dry and rainy seasons, both important for agribusiness, and as a region vulnerable to climate change, what has been done to increase its adaptation?
Climate change adaptation has taken significant work, and it has basically been a multi-ministerial approach whereby the Ministry of Agriculture works very closely with the Ministry of Finance, because as we grapple with the vagaries of climate change, it is going to cost these governments in the Caribbean and governments globally to address the issues that we continue to grapple with. So, for example, at the level of CARICOM, we were able to sit as a sub-region and to have a declaration that we are going to collectively work on ensuring that we have joint initiatives to be able to address issues of climate change, because we don't want to be replicating the work and not be benefiting from the economies of scope. We are also seeing that international organizations, for example, I'm aware that IICA later on this year will be launching a major project working with the Green Climate Fund to be able to bring resources to different stakeholders throughout the food sectors in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other member states of CARICOM, so that we can be able to grapple with many of the vagaries of climate change that we are facing. The University of the West Indies also continues to do excellent work, and I must note that many of our technicians in the country in the agriculture sector have been working with other friendly states to obtain training so that we can appreciate new technologies to advance the cause of climate change resilience. And we expect that over the next few years that we will continue to work with several international partners to ensure that as we become affected, that we can come up with the required solutions.
Again, thanks for making the time to be with us. Saboto Caeser, Ministro da Agricultura, Floresta, Pesca, Transformação Rural, Indústria e Trabalho de São Vicente e Granadinas. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
No AgroAmérica de hoje, nós falamos sobre a importância da agricultura para a economia e as estratégias para fortalecer o agronegócio no Caribe. Você pode rever este programa no canal do AgroMais no YouTube e acompanhar também outras entrevistas por lá. Aproveite para seguir a gente nas redes sociais, @AgroMaisTV. Obrigada pela companhia. A gente se vê.